This is LiR Media. To whom it concerns, welcome to the panel. Hey everybody, welcome along to this edition of the panel. LiR Media TV, our usual email info@LiR Media, and we thank you for all your comments. Press the red button on the right hand side to subscribe. Good evening, Alison.
Good evening, guys. How are you?
Alison O'Reilly, in case people don't know who you are. Good evening, Mary Honan. How are you?
How could anyone not know Alison, the famous journalist and writer and crime reporter?
Famous for all the wrong reasons, Mary.
Hi, everyone.
And Dirk Klein doesn't need any introduction. I wasn't even going to mention your name, Dirk, but I will for the one or two people left who may not know who you are.
Oh, who are they?
I want to know who they are.
Our names and addresses now. I mean, that's just not good enough. But
Send me, I'll find them.
Well, we're talking about
Yeah, Alison is the investigative journalist, so she'll be able to tweak them out.
the first item we just want to touch on. Really, it's not, I know it's Limerick, but it's endemic sometimes of the disenfranchisement of the people. The people of Limerick City and County voted in a referendum to agree to an elected mayor to be elected by the people, for the people, and all of that. Our government gave them the middle finger and said no thanks. And this, to me, is a dangerous precedent to set. What is the point of having a referendum if there's no legal way of asserting that decision by the people after having the plebiscite and voting for it? They rejected the same one in Cork and Dublin, as we know, but now there's moves in Dublin to get it going. Mary, what do you think of this thing, this carry on?
Do you know, I mean, it's despairing, really. I mean, we're supposed to be a democracy. It's the same when it goes back to the vote for Europe, and that when everyone voted against, and they were forced to keep going until they got the answer that they wanted. When you ask the people, do they want a vote on any subject, and they vote either for or against, that vote should be honoured. It's the same in Britain. I mean, the amount of people who voted for Brexit, and still you had people trying to get a second vote in order to try and change the vote. You know, when people vote and had the good grace to go down and make a conscious decision to vote, then their vote should count. That's what democracy is supposed to be about, surely.
And Alison, what do you think of this carry on?
I fully agree with Mary. What is the point in you putting your coat on, getting from A to B, to make that vote, to give your voice? That's what it's about. It's by the people. Isn't that what they say? You know,
yeah.
For the people, by the people. So I don't understand why. But I mean, isn't this what happened with the Lisbon Treaty? Do you remember it didn't go through, and then they just had another referendum and rammed it down everyone's throats and got it over the line? So it's, right. You know, what is democracy if it's, you know, well, thanks but no thanks? I don't get that at all. It's very unfair. I fully agree with Mary there. It's very unfair.
And Dirk, what do you think is behind this, really? Is it the main political parties afraid to give up a little bit of power?
no, I think they were afraid that I was going to get the job, you see, and that's probably why they said no, thank you. No, but I mean, the whole political system in Ireland, it's not great. I mean, this is how it is for me, for instance, okay? I can't vote for the Dáil. I can vote for European Parliament. I can vote for local elections. I could also vote for the mayor. I could even become mayor in any town in Ireland, even Dublin. But I can't vote for TDs or the Dáil because I'm Dutch. And for me to do that, I have to give up my Dutch passport, my Dutch nationality, and that's never going to happen, which I find strange because and recently I saw a list of some sports people that little to do with Ireland, very little. But yet they all have the Irish passport, and I can't get it. I mean, I've been living here for most of my adult life. My kids were born here. I'm married to an Irish lady, but yet I cannot get an Irish passport.
Why can't you get? Yeah, but why can't you get
Dual.
dual?
I can't. I
I
can't.
know you weren't. You have no blood connections in
No,
Ireland.
but it's whatever arrangements that they have with some countries. I can't get an Irish passport unless I give up. I can't have a dual passport unless I give up my Dutch nationality. No, if I would be French, I think it would be a different story. But it's not only the Irish government, by the way. There's also the Dutch government. But it should be. Thinking of it, I think it's about 20,000 Dutch people living in Ireland, who more or less the same situation as I have. Just thinking about this for political profits. I mean, anyone who get it through, they have 20,000 votes, they're suddenly there and overnight. But yet, if they want to do a referendum, that's what they should be doing.
I'm afraid we won't ever forget the Battle of the Boyne. I'm afraid. Sorry about that now, Dirk.
I mean, didn't we give you a nice orange bit of the flag?
you raped, you plundered, and you pillaged.
Well,
Yeah.
that was half the fun.
And we hold grudges.
There's nobody holds grudges like the Irish.
I know. Maybe that's what it is then.
But really, I don't know why they cannot go ahead, because the referendum was passed. Was it 2 years ago now? Was it 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago?
Well, I have to say, my ancestor was the very first democratically elected mayor of Limerick, and I find it extraordinary that the people of any city haven't been able to vote. I've always found it extraordinary that the council would decide to tell somebody, well, you're going to be the mayor now next year or the next term, and he's going to be the mayor this term, or she's going to be the mayor this term. This should be up. The mayor is the if you like, the leader of the city, and it should be very much up to the people of Limerick who their mayor is, not councillors trying to keep in with other parties in order that when it comes their turn that they will become mayor.
I scratch your back, you scratch mine.
Yeah. I'll be good to you now as long as you remember now it's my turn now next.
Yeah.
That's not the way to run a mayor.
No, I think the fundamental problem is that the fundamental problem is they don't want to give up that control they have. They don't want an independent-minded thinking person who may become mayor emerge to become a strong person. That's the way I feel. And also, one of our local TDs, Willie O'D, said, we don't want a Nigel Farage type person standing to be mayor of Limerick.
And why not? I mean, it's a citizen of the city. Every citizen of the city is entitled to, if they're eligible to go, is entitled to go, and it's up to the people of Limerick to decide if they're unsuitable, or if they're unsuitable for them in their opinion, and don't give them a vote. But if they get a vote, then I don't think that anybody should be.
The only problem though with a mayor, if he's elected, I understand it was going to be a 10 years kind of job or something like that. What happens if he doesn't, or he or she doesn't do the job right? Can they be sacked, or do we have to wait the full term?
But that's what Jim Gavin was saying in the Citizens' Assembly today. That concluded today, and he was saying, with elected mayors and stuff, like, if you're not doing it right, out you go. So I think
that should be part of it.
But to be honest, I think 10 years is way.
Oh, that's way too long.
It's just
it won't be 10. They were speaking about a 3 or a 5 or maybe a 7, but probably a 5-year term.
I would say 4.
Maybe a 3
4 is enough
I see a 3-year term will be fine, because they can do it in other countries, lads. It's not rocket science.
If I look at my own country, my own hometown, okay, we had an awful mayor there. Awful. He was the worst man you can get as a mayor, and he literally destroyed the town because he had too much power, and they couldn't get rid of him. He had these grandiose ideas on what to do with the city centre. He ruined it. So that's the risk you take, though, what powers do they have, and what that needs to be sorted out before you get the mayor in. I mean, it shouldn't be.
But then when you look at it, many a president went in there for too long and they couldn't get rid of them.
Yeah.
Oh God! Don't
I mean,
start with the president.
you can't. You have to. There has to be a time limit, and I think.
Yeah, and it's a smaller role, and certainly if you're misbehaving, out you go.
Yeah.
I mean, if the president of the United States only gets 4 years, we can surely frame legislation whereby the democratically elected mayor of Limerick, he or she will have 3 or 4 years. That's it.
Yeah.
And you can have all your checks and balances as well. LiR Media, you listen to the panel. Press the red button on the right-hand side to subscribe to our channel, and thank you for the figures. The Justice Minister has refused, I know they only pick up this in the paper, has refused to publish the report on women's prisons issues. I know, lads, I was been following bits and pieces of the stories on the information. Now, roughly 4% of our prison population are women. 4% of our prison. The maximum amount of prisoners that can be held at any one time in the state is 4,375. That's our total prison population. And the staff numbers, 3,200 to go up to 4,325 of those prisoners. That's nearly 1-to-1 staff, roughly speaking. Now, our Justice Minister, probably one of the biggest virtue signaling politicians in cabinet today, refused to publish the report. She will come under pressure in the Dáil, there's no doubt about it. I don't know, does anyone be here? Alison, you haven't been reading that, have you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, that happens quite a bit with reports, refusing to publish them. And the only thing that really should stop you is kind of, data protection or, something that's going to breach somebody's privacy. But I doubt very much in those reports that people are named. I think it's more the contents would shock the public. That's what I always think. That some things in there, like there's a, high amount of drug abuse or certainly
indeed, Alison, a high number of pregnancies, is it?
There's a high number of pregnancies, but also there's a high number of women who actually get into relationships with other women. And it seems to be more prevalent in female prisons than male prisons, that they just naturally gel together for some reason. And there's an awful lot of lesbianism behind bars. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it does happen. It seems to happen more in a women's prison than a men's prison. And I just think maybe there's something in there that, I don't know, is going to, I don't know how it could shock the public, because it's a prison after all. They're in there for bad things. But not that lesbianism is bad, but there's things that people don't like to read. Oh, don't put that out there. I think it's just covering up something. It's a cover up. Why don't we know what's going on in the prisons that we pay for?
Exactly.
And it's part of education. It's highlighting an area of the country that we don't know a whole lot about. We could learn from it. It could be a major deterrent. You just don't know. So things escalate when you don't release these things. I never understand that. I just think the only reason you can't release something is a breach of privacy or something. But I doubt very much that it's going to be Mary, the killer, 46 from, I'd say it's going to be, one prisoner said. So it's about identifying people is probably their excuse. But really, I'd say it's just whitewashing or covering up something like that. And
what do you think, Dirk? Is it as we said before, Big Brother holding on to all this information?
Yeah, I mean, if there's a report, release it. I mean, why issue a report if it's not going to be released? But another problem here as well is, what will they do with the report? I mean, there's so many reports been done about everything here, but nothing actually ever happens with them. They just go, I don't know where they go. They just go on a bookshelf somewhere, and that's about it. I mean, there's no use issuing a report if you're not going to do anything with it. I mean, that's, I mean, it's just a waste of time, waste of money, waste of resources, you name it. It's just a complete waste. If you have a report, do something with it.
Especially at a time, Dirk, now where we're going on about women's issues, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
At a time where women are, you know, really pushing themselves forward for equality and everything else. And if it's a woman's issue, why don't we know about it? And exactly, a report that just sits down, you don't learn from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And Mary, what do you think? Do you think that all reports like this, particularly, as you said, something like a prison, or that has a public interest in the famous word that everybody uses when they're talking about prison, which drives me utterly bananas, like the scene in the Shawshank Redemption? Well, do you think you have been rehabilitated after 42 years in prison? My God, Mary, that rehabilitation. Now, when I thought, but why isn't there a report, you think? Is there something going on that we don't know?
Well,
I
think again, it's like the people in Limerick voting for the mayor. It's like they did tell people they were going to release this report. Suddenly, they changed their minds about releasing the report, and you have to wonder why. I mean, I would have to wonder, and I'd be a very suspicious person with that anyway, or a deep thinker. I'd be thinking to myself, there has to be a reason why they're not releasing this report. And when women are in prisons, I mean, men are vulnerable in prison, but women are doubly vulnerable in prison. And you have to wonder, when a family member, no matter what the crime they committed, goes into prison, you worry about them. And it must be horrifically worrying to know that the minister is not releasing data on Docus and
well, I mean, those two parties have formed, many of the Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, as we know, and the same with the Greens. Now, Alison, about the prisons themselves, I mean, I thought that you weren't going to get prison anymore, in my naivety, for not paying fines, you know. But it seems the majority of women, not majority, but many women are in prison for not paying court fines.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, one of my neighbours went to prison, and she needed daily.
Shocking?
Yeah, she needed daily was issued with and she made it. She told the press this. She got a fine for her TV license, that thing, and another woman, friend of mine. Yeah, and but they were sending her to Limerick prison, and she said, actually, my father was a prison officer in there, and he was a rapist, and you're sending me in there. So that was quashed. And a friend of mine, yeah, she was sent for not paying something like a €40 fine. I mean, you think of the price of housing somebody there, between security, food, services, whatever facilities, whatever's there, for a €40 fine or a €50 fine. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. And I know a friend who died recently from suicide, and a letter came to her rented property for something like €130 for a internet, and we will start legal proceedings now. And I was shown that letter and I was reading it. Now, obviously they don't know she's passed on, right? And that needs to be told and all of that. But I was thinking, for €130, they're going to start legal proceedings. And that could end up, 20 days in prison or whatever, if they go the whole hog. But that's solicitors, barristers, legal fees, courts, then the transport to the prison, because you're taken away in the van. You've got the whole day in prison, or you're 20 days in prison for a €130 fine.
But nobody in the justice system, nobody cares. Nobody cares. There's no human type of kindness from the judiciary and the legal people and the Gardaí as well. How in the name of God, the amount of time that's taken up to process all that, go into court for 100 quid or something, it's absolutely cruelty.
Nonsense.
Pure cruelty to our people in this republic, and it's only poor people.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that's one of the reasons, Pat. It's one of the reasons. It's the lower income people that probably don't vote, and no one gives a shit about it.
Well, Alison, some years back, I was sitting in the court here in Limerick, what would you call it, court?
The district court.
District court, thank you. And I saw this misfortunate woman, I'll never forget it, because she had she had 3 children, and she was what they call now living in a home for women who are victims of domestic abuse, battered wives, they would have called years ago. She had her little car. She had her 3 children, one of whom was severely autistic. The little boy would not sit in the back seat, was causing her an end of trouble. So she was sitting parked with the child in the front seat of the car and no belt on, because he just kicked up. He didn't want a belt. Can you believe that the guard actually came over and prosecuted her for having a child in the passenger seat of the car without a safety belt? And she was parked at the time. And she went into court, and they actually gave her a 6 months off the road for 6 months. Now this woman,
she was parked.
She was parked. This woman had 3 children, one of whom was severely autistic, and she was on social welfare or whatever, and she was living in a home for victims of domestic abuse, and she was totally dependent on that car to get her and her 3 children around, and a woman judge gave her 6 months off the road.
And told her what for. Yeah, the women are the worst, you know that. But you know, wait till you hear this. I was moving from around the corner 12, 13 years ago. And it's the most stressful thing ever, moving, as you all know. And I was in the car full of stuff. It's about 10 o'clock at night. And my son was only about 5, and he was beside me. In the front seat, right? With a belt on, but in the front seat, a child, and I drove around the corner. To this day, I've never seen a guard on that road since, but the guard was on the road that night, saw me coming with a car full. I was crying because I have no family in Dublin. I was trying to move. It was so stressful, and I had the child going bananas. Now, he was in the front seat in the car. I either had to leave him in the rented house on his own, or leave him in the house I just bought on his own. So I took him with me, but I couldn't put him in the back seat because I had so much stuff. Anyway, he stopped me. I explained this to him, and he said, no problem. Off you go. Just drive safely. And when you get him to the house, you know, don't put him back in the front seat. That was it. Do you know why, Mary? Because I'm educated. I spoke well to him, and he could see that I was upset, and he just used his discretion and let me go.
I've never had bad experiences. I've had many an experience with guards.
No, but if they think they can pick on you, Mary, they will.
Always nice, but it was this poor girl. It was clear that she was battered down with life.
Yeah.
Children, one disabled, and a husband that she was hiding from.
And I would say maybe
and
she was
a woman took her car from her.
But Mary, she was probably a little bit hysterical that day as well, and they hate all that. So they actually punished you. She might have got a bit hysterical when the guard approached her.
She could have, because she said she was just distraught. She had him in the front seat. She wasn't moving. The car was parked. I couldn't understand the rationale.
Wicked.
And she was actually fined as well. I mean, as if she had little enough without being fined. And to compound it all, to take her off the road for 6 months. How was she going to escape in the event that her husband caught up with her? What means of transport had she?
And she probably didn't even know that she could appeal that. Do you know that?
Yes.
I remember she just walked off and just took it.
Yeah, probably didn't even know what is an appeal. Do you know?
Yeah.
And you know, Dirk, before I come in, we're always saying the guards have a terrible job. No, they don't. No, they don't. They have a job to do. They should know how to do it properly. Making excuses for people, being well paid to do a job is not, oh, she got her. And the same when you hear about overcrowding in hospitals. No, it's the fault. It's not my fault.
Fault
that
of
there's
the management.
130 people in trolleys. It's the fault of the management of that hospital.
Yeah,
And
it's
they're
management.
they're never called to book, they're never called out, they're never fired. They're never fired.
When the nuns
That's what I meant.
when the-
Never fired.
That's what I meant with this mayor job as well. Like, you know, will he be made he or she be made accountable for his job if they make
absolutely.
mistakes? Well, because it's not happening at the moment across the board anywhere.
Yeah, this is the thing.
Anyway,
This is the thing.
But on a positive note, Pat, from what I hear, in relation to decisions and that, whatever planners were lost the few brain cells they had left to actually do what they did in Childers Road and turn nearly half the road into a bicycle ramp and then put all these bollards up to prevent people from going into the bicycle ramp. I said there, I think it was last week, there was no car. If an ambulance came behind you, you couldn't pull in the road to let the ambulance pass because it's 2 lanes of traffic plus 2 bicycle lanes now and bollards. They're taking up the bollards because there was so many complaints that the ambulances couldn't overtake.
There you go. Well, that's good news. We'll take responsibility for that. The panelists show and tell all your friends about us. info@LiR Media is our email. Press the red button. Love is in the air. Love. We need love. Love is in the air. Your favorite love song.
I told you that, Pat. Not on air, please. Not online. Like, you know, people are watching. Really, like, you know.
He's a man crush.
It's supposed to be family show, like, crying out loud. Like.
My hero's up there, is it? Anyway, your favorite love songs of all time. Dirk, we'll start with you because, I mean, obviously, what's that song? Tulips from Amsterdam, that song, way back in the 50s or 60s, is a top 10 hit or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, Dirk, do you have a favorite love song? Apart from the one in Toy Story, but do you have a favorite love song?
Yeah, Highway to Hell. It's or Hell Ain't the Bad Place to Be. Another great one. I'm not so much into love songs, to be honest. But I'm a bit of a rocker, so I mean, I don't know. Having said that, though, when we got married many moons ago, we got married over 2 days. On Thursday at the registry office because it was free. Hey, I'm still Dutch. And a Friday in church. Well, on the Thursday at the registry office, we could pick 3 songs for the duration of the signing of the life sentence marriage. And they were No Frontiers, Mary Black, because the 2 nationalities. Then there was a song from Extreme, New York City is called, Bird's Eye View, and Need Your Love So Bad from Fleetwood Mac. That's the 3 we picked. So that's probably the 3 I would have a pick of those, or one of those. Work away with it.
No, Mary, could you shorten your list?
My list is 1. My list is 1, and it's A Love Until the End of Time with Placido Domingo and Maureen McGovern.
I remember that. Yeah.
I just I have always loved that song, and when my mum died, I used to play it over and over and over and over again for, I'd say, weeks after she died, and it was just a song, I suppose, that brings back memories of her, but I just think it's a beautiful version of A Love Until the End of Time. Or Besame Mucho by Placido Domingo as well.
Well, your man does that too, the fella from Canada, Bublé.
Mickey
Bubbles.
He does a nice version of that.
Oh, you should hear Placido's version.
And Alison, what about you? Do you like love songs really, or is there a few that resonate with you?
Oh, look, I suppose, I love music anyway, and it just depends on things that bring you back, and you think, oh God, I remember that. Oh my God. And I remember when I loved Sweet 16. It reminded me of my first boyfriend, my first serious boyfriend. Always reminded me. And I think that's a beautiful song. I still think it's a beautiful song. But love song, I suppose, I'm not really into all that, but I do love Purple Rain by Prince, if that's a love song. I don't know if that's a love song, could be anything.
Well,
really.
you could call it a type of love song. The first one, I remember.
I absolutely love Prince, but that song is just so stunning. And I played it over and over after he died. I think I was grieving when he died. I think we all were. I mean, he's so brilliant. He's just so brilliant. But I love Purple Rain.
A genius, really.
Yeah.
Well, the first one that resonated with me was Elvis Presley's one.
Yeah.
You know, it was Can't You See I Love You? Lovely lines. Can't you see I love Wooden Heart? That was a really
Actually,
that's lovely. Yeah.
Please don't break my heart in two. That's
the song I sang for my kids when we were small as a lullaby. That one, your song by Elton John, and there was another one by actually was from Lauren Hardy. One of the movies is "Go to Sleep, My Baby." It's called.
Yeah.
So yeah. But this one song has a special meaning to me, and it's actually not a love song, but it's a song I find very difficult to listen to or to sing along with. Not because it's a bad song, because that's so much meaning for me. It's "Living Years" by My Mechanics.
Oh yeah.
Because it brings me back to the time where my father wasn't in my life. He had gone for 18 years, and that reminded me all the time of him. And that actually triggered me to reestablish contact with him again. That's one of the songs, because it was tearing me apart every time I was listening to it.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's a
18
fabulous
years,
song,
Dirk.
though.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah, we often joke about it. He left when he was 9. He went for newspapers, and he read the newspapers, and it took him 18 years to read that particular paper, and he came back on the scene again there.
And did you reconcile? Did it work out okay after all that?
You see, this happened in '96. I actually was talking to someone today about it as well, because he had asked me, had I ever gone to Prague on holidays? Actually, I said, well, I booked once in '96, but that was a disaster year for us, because started off with my grandmother dying, and that kind of, my father contacted us then saying, listen, would you come to the funeral? That kind of, there was a start there, but I had already made my mind up that I had to do this for my own state of mind, because otherwise, I think, if God forbid, if something happens to him, I'll be a bitter man, because all the things I wanted to say, that's what's in one of the lines in the song as well. Like all the things I had to say, I didn't get to tell him. I wanted to make sure I did get to tell him those things. But yeah, so and then my 2 weeks, yeah.
Listening to you saying that, it brought back a funny, and I know it's funny, but Richard Harris, when he walked out of his house in America, his wife told the story on the Late Late Show, and she said he went out for the newspaper. She said he came back 2 weeks later. He had got on a plane to Ireland to watch the rugby match in Lansdowne Road. And he came back and he knocked on the door, and he said she came down in her nightdress, and she opened the door, and he said, "Why in God's name did you not pay the ransom?"
Oh my God, but he was a hell raiser. He was a brat.
He said my father walked out and didn't come back for years.
But with my father in those 18 years, he got married twice in between as well. Like, so I mean, it's not like he was there. But yeah, that kind of triggered this.
There's a book in that, Dirk. Another love song by Shaky Stevens. Crazy Little Thing Called Love. Anyone
That's a Shaky
that?
Stevens. That's Queen, you ninny.
I know that.
That's a cover.
And there was another one. Can't Take My Eyes Off You. Do you remember that one? No.
Yeah. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off you.
I'm surprised none of you mentioned Unchained Melody.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
surprised
it went on forever, that song.
Yeah.
It's
It's too high pitched. I can't sing along with it, so it's no use to me.
Well, there was one that my dad bought me when I was 5, and you know, love songs you can I suppose it's all a matter of who gives them to you and how you feel about them. But it was your five today, and what a jolly holiday. And everyone is here to say we wish you happy birthday. Happy birthday, my darling. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, my darling. Happy birthday to you. It was just a simple little song on a little record, and you know, you never forget things like that. And to me, that's a love song as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The panel is the program before we what I say. Look, we mean well. The panel is the program on LiR Media, and first of
are you
all,
going
Well, we do. I'm not sure about you, Pat, but we do, yeah.
Are you going to announce to anyone as well that we're going on FM?
Oh,
well, we will be for people who will see this program now later on in the week. We will be probably the end of July, August, that kind of thing. But we'll have plenty. We'll have a launch. We'll have media people along at the launch. We'll have to have media coverage.
Fantastic.
Maybe.
It's a great achievement. That's
You'll have to do a write-up about us, Alison.
I will, of course. It's serious hard work to achieve that.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? And the info@LiR Media.tv is our email. Now, is it time to stop giving permission? Thank you. Is it time to stop giving permission to having any more fast food places, takeaways? Just stop them. We have enough. We really, really have enough. There's a what I say, a serious health issue, and I was on to two doctors, different doctors, not together, obviously, and it's just utterly out of control. There's very little discussion on it. I know you can't have everything discussed, you can't have everything, but really, because people, either number one, they're embarrassed. I'm fat. I'm a bit fat. I know that myself. I have to be aware. But I'm just saying, like, really be aware. I notice it particularly in the younger generation because I travel in the bus every day of the week, and I notice it myself, and it is really, really has got worse. I don't know about you, Alison. What do you think?
I think that people are going to eat whatever they like because the horse has bolted on that one. It's down to first, yeah. I mean, there's chippers on every corner of Dublin, but they do close at a certain time. And I think, you know, that people are so busy now that convenience foods are where it's at for them, a lot of them. There has been a great change though with COVID and people trying to eat better. I think there has been a bit of a shift, but yeah. I think there will always be people who'll just live out of takeaways. They just can't manage their time, can't do it. I mean, I'm guilty of doing it myself. I
have takeaways. Yeah, I have takeaways.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's you know, when you're very hungry and you've a long day, and I mean, I have a mental job. That's the only way I can describe it. It's mental. Yeah. And sometimes just like, do you know what? I'm passing somewhere and I'm going in there, and I would eat quite well and I exercise and I do the whole lot, but sometimes with like when you're doing like starting at 5:30 in the morning and finishing at 12. And then you know you have to go home and walk the dogs, collect the child from school. It's going to get to a point where it all kicks in and you're like, just manage this. So I do think that you'll never be able to stop people getting takeaways. I think they're here to stay.
And Mary, what do you think? Have we enough of them? Should there be any more?
Do you know, I'm sick of looking at them all over the place. All you look at are takeaways, pound shops, and charity stores everywhere you go in Limerick, on the main street of O'Connell Street. And, you know, with the food, it's very hard, as Alison says, you know, people, their lives are constantly going and it's convenient to go in and get a takeaway and come home or sit down and have it. But the government, I don't think, is doing anything either to reduce the price of good food.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you go into a store and you try to buy organic food, it's much more expensive than buying non-organic food. And if you want to eat healthily, it's actually more expensive to eat healthily. And then if you want to become vegan, We were talking about this. You were at an event I was at, Pat, the other day.
That's right, yeah.
Up at Mary Immaculate College, and they were talking about veganism and that. And, you know, one, there's no place in Limerick that you could go into and say, look, I just want a vegan meal, and sit down and get used to going there, or have one or two vegan or vegetarian stroke vegan places in Limerick that you could go for a meal. You go out for a meal with people who are eating burgers. I tried going pescatarian at one stage, and I went out with Pat and Martin and a few of the lads from the station, and they all I got was, you're miserable, because everything was burgers and chips, or everything was off limits. And if you asked for vegan food, all they had was lettuce or salad. Or, you know, there should be more places to cater for people who do really want to eat healthily. And then maybe people will go in there, and basically a healthy food should be reduced in price to encourage people to eat more healthy food.
Well, see, now, Mary, I'm still trying to be vegan, but I'm semi-vegan, if there is such a thing, right? Around June or July last year, and I have never had an issue with food anywhere I go.
So what would you order if you went in?
There's always something. There's always a vegetarian stroke vegan option.
In a takeaway restaurant?
Oh, well, if I was going to a takeaway restaurant, I'd just say chips and maybe curry sauce. That's it. Like, you know, I don't miss the meat or anything. But I think if you can, like, people are saying to me when we go out for dinner, oh, I don't think there's much of an option there. There is, because I'll say, well, I'll have a bit of that and I'll make my own. I just say, don't worry about me. I know what to order now, and I know what I can have, and I might have a bit of this.
Right.
But I find there's so many options.
Well, I'm not a lover of meat. But when we went out, all of us, for meals, I was looking through the menu and I was thinking, what the hell is all of this? You know, and I'm one of these people that eats just fish and mashed potatoes and veg.
Yeah.
But then you get fish, and you're in Slimming World, and you get fish with batter on it, and you think, oh God, I can't eat that. So you're trying to contend with being in Slimming World and also being pescatarian, and your options are getting narrower and narrower by the minute. And then Pat and Martin are over at the other side, stuffing their faces with a burger.
You're still trying, that's very frustrating.
Yeah.
And also, just tiny, very quickly, that where you mentioned the pound shops and the takeaways, all of that's coming to a stop in the city centre in Dublin under these new development plans that they're revamping the city. All them pound shops are going to go. So I'd like to see that rolled out, because they do take away from the.
Well, they should be in smaller streets, off street.
Yeah, they should be off the street,
because people are paying, but charity shops as well, because people are paying ferocious rates for say O'Connell Street in Limerick. They're paying exorbitant rates to have a house, to have a business there. And then you have a charity shop beside it that's rates free.
Yeah.
And everyone there, the whole street, are basically paying exorbitant. We were looking for a premises for our station. The rates were more expensive than the rent for the premises.
Yeah.
But in relation to healthy food, no, myself, Mary, I've never eaten a Presbyterian. I don't know how they taste like. But I don't agree with you that healthy food is more expensive. It doesn't have to be. It's all high. Because I'm not a great fan of takeaways, and it doesn't mean that I don't get them, because every once in a while I do as well. But it's all in moderation. That's what you have to look for. But you can't. It doesn't matter. You can't stop them. Anyone building more restaurants, because if you go to a supermarket, you have the hot food counter there as well, where they sell chips and burgers as well. So I mean, that's an unfair advantage for them as well. But I mean, it is also a small bit of your own responsibility, though. Like, I mean, you have to look after your own health, and even you said a lot of kids eat as well. But I mean, the parents have to kind of educate them as well. Like, I mean, my kids don't really go to not much. They hardly ever go to fast food outlets, because they know at home they get a healthy dinner, so I mean, and it's cooked by me or my wife, and they know what goes into it. So I mean, it's all about education. It's all about your own responsibility.
It's your house, Dirk. I fancy those nice houses.
That's fine. That's fine.
It doesn't take long to cook a meal. You can cook a meal for 4 or 5 people in less than a half an hour.
That's okay,
Yeah.
Dirk. We'll have the lunch in your house.
Yeah, that's fine. Have a lunch in my house, and
You and Pat can cook, because Barry loves to cook, he said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He can cook, and Alison, myself, and your wife, and everyone else can
join in.
Yeah,
obviously, I think, Dirk, you struck the right note about moderation. I'm not against takeaways. I'm not against fast foods. Just reduce the number of them there. And the processed foods in supermarkets are shocking. I was looking through them in all they're just shocking.
Yeah, but there's another thing you're missing as well, Pat.
What's inside them? Just garbage.
There's another thing you're missing as well, Pat. There's a lot of people in this country, a lot of homeless people living in hotels, living in with their children in one-room hotels, and
no facilities.
all they can have is maybe a takeaway, bring it back to the hotel and eat it. Where are they going to go? They're relying.
Mary, you're forgetting something. Vladimir Putin has solved the housing crisis in Ireland. Did you not hear Dara Murphy on with News Talk this morning, our housing minister? You should listen back to his interview with Gavin Duffy. I'll tell you, lads, it's an eye-opener. I was ready. Only I have 2 radios in the house. I was going to throw the one I was listening to out through the window, but you can listen to yourselves, the housing minister. I'll tell you, it's another eye-opener, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, you talk about the housing. I mean, it is a very serious thing that houses can be, that houses can there can be an effort suddenly to try and find houses for people, when how many people are on the streets and dying on the streets in front of Dáil Éireann?
But Mary, that's not going to happen for the Ukrainian refugees. They are going to go into God knows what. I mean, temporary accommodation in a big centre down in Cork. They'll end up staying there, and I just feel so sorry for them. I feel so sorry for them.
It's dreadful. It's dreadful bringing these misfortunes into the country.
Yeah.
When we don't have houses for every one of the citizens, and we're giving false hope, and we're telling people
it's false hope. It's not their fault. It's false hope.
But we also have to look at what actually
country, and we give you a house, and they haven't a notion of giving these people houses.
Yeah, we also have to redefine what actually homelessness is, because a lot of this is to do with addiction as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember a couple of years ago this man was found dead in Dublin. Turns out he had 2 houses, but he was addicted. So you have to kind of.
Yeah, but for
not everyone
who aren't addicted, Dirk, who do want homes, and
I know that, but but the thing is, if you call everyone homeless, well, it's like an umbrella term they use. You kind of have.
There are houses all over Limerick boarded up.
Hang on a minute, Mary. I think you can miss the point. We're not talking about the people who are addicted. They'll be on the streets anyway. That's irrelevant. That muddies the waters. We're talking about families who are living in hotels and guest houses for the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years. That's what we're talking about, not the people. We'll always have a residue of people on the streets. And really, there's 27 housing agencies in Dublin alone, supposed to be looking after the homeless.
Yeah, but see, that's a problem as well.
Yeah, it is a problem.
That's a problem as well, because too many people are making money out of this homelessness issue as well. Too many charities are making money out of this, and that is an issue. There should be one organization looking.
I'm at the launch of new social housing every week for housing there. I mean, this is what's happening nearly every week now. There's this organization in conjunction with the Department of Housing is doing this over in Portobello and over in Rialto, and changing houses in St. Oliver Bonds, and I was like, why, who are these organizations? And I think as well the point you made, okay, there is different categories for homelessness. It's the temporary accommodation that is the most challenging one, I think, because as you quite rightly said, Dirk, there are rough sleepers who choose to sleep there because there's a whole complex of needs there. and a lot of work that many of them are not ready to. I mean, a man died a few weeks ago, and there was a big march outside the Dáil for him. But like, you know, he had a family, respectful family. There's a lot of addiction there, but it's the temporary accommodation, the hotels, living at home with your parents, even. You know, that's a form of. I mean,
that's homelessness.
Yeah,
that's homelessness.
Nobody can buy. Like, my son is never going to be able to buy a house. I can't see, unless he becomes like a multi-millionaire. But all that category, then people shoved into hotels, and that was all short-term housing, and it became 10 and 12 years.
What I don't get, I mean, I've been out to the refugee centre out in Moyross, and it's tragic to see. I mean, I was in with a lovely family a few years ago now. My dog went missing, and a family rang me from there to say they thought they had seen the dog, and I went out and they invited me into their little room. A mother, father, and 2 children. One of the little girls was going to St. John's School, and I don't know where the little boy was going. They couldn't have been kinder to me. But my Jesus, they were all sharing 1 toilet or 2 toilets.
Oh, stop.
And there were men, there were women, there were children. Knocklashin, and they were sharing these communal toilets, and I thought, how unsafe is that for men, women, and children to be all going down to these communal? And they had a little kitchenette, a little sink, and a kind of a countertop over in the corner. And I thought, dear God, you know, this is just awful. And they were telling me there were 7 years waiting to be made legal. In this country, and yet, and through no fault of the refugees from the Ukraine, through no fault of their own, it's kind of like there's no cap. It's just come in, and they have no
find a place to sit down.
They have no play, but just come in to one of the wettest countries in the world.
I know. I think it's going to be really embarrassing. It's going to be embarrassing that we have people who've come from the worst kind of background, that a war that we'll never know what that's like, and then to come here, as you said, under false pretenses. I think it's embarrassing. I think
it's just making us. They're just trying to look good. They're just trying to look good in Europe, and to look like, look at us, aren't we great? We're taking in so many thousand refugees when we haven't homes for the people that are here.
And there's been a massive cut in the number of pledges. Did you hear that as well? Obviously, people are not answering the phone. They're not responding now.
No, they're dried up.
And they were talking on Niall Boylan the other day about putting a room tax on people. Have they lost their minds?
No.
When the authorities don't know how many illegal immigrants are in this country, because there are only a few ways in, ports or airports. And really, when they don't know that in this tiny country, there's no point in talking about figures in my mind. I've asked, I wasn't who I asked twice.
And you're always like, there's genuine refugees, and every country has.
Of course there are.
But there's going to be people pulling the wool over your eyes with that stuff.
But they're not illegal, they're undocumented.
Yeah.
See, it's okay for the Irish illegal to be called undocumented. So I mean, there's a bit of hypocrisy there as well.
Some of us are more equal than others, Dirk.
I don't care what they do in America or Australia. I'm just worried about my own country. And if we cannot manage,
we should have just taken in the amount we could manage.
Something seriously wrong, you know.
But Pat, it is a point. Like, we're out there, you know, trying to get the undocumented in America settled. How long have we heard that on the agenda? We're going to make them legal if they can't come home. And people do argue their point over here. You know, there is a lot of that going on. But like, in terms of Ireland here, like, we can't have one rule for us out there.
But
like,
Alison,
because they're there.
I'll give you 1 point. I cannot get on. I can get on a plane in the morning and fly into New York, but I'll get no further than the airport.
No, I know.
I will get no further than the airport. We have no direct flights to the continent of Africa, none. So anybody coming into Dublin Airport, Cork or ports, they're swanning through the airport. It's a regular occurrence every day of the week. And we have the Gardaí in the airports, present in the airports, What is going on?
But
I
Pat,
just-
I adopted my son in 2011, and I had to actually, I said, here's an Ethiopian passport for my son. I've just adopted him. And they said, oh, congratulations. And I was like, do you want my papers? Like the laminate, every adoptive parent knows you've a laminate that's stamped, Supreme Court, everything. Yes. I had to say, and I have this as well to give you to get my son into this country. Oh, right. Okay, thanks. I always remember that. I always remember.
Actually,
I walked in with a black baby in my arms and an Ethiopian passport, and no one asked me for anything.
Funny if you mentioned that, because I had the same thing now when I moved here to Ireland, because I know over in the Netherlands they're very strict, even for EU citizens at the time. After 3 months, if you couldn't prove that you were working or that you could look after yourself financially, you would be sent home again. So. But you need a letter from an employer or whatever, sponsor saying, well, they're okay. But so when I moved to Ireland, I went to the Gardaí here and I said, listen, yeah, I just want to say I'm here now. I've moved to Ireland, kind of register myself. And so, oh, okay. So are you working? So I am. Well, that's fair enough, so. I mean, I couldn't believe it, like, you know. I mean, I didn't even ask my name. So, oh, okay, it's fair enough. Like, you know, I mean,
terrorist.
Yeah. I mean, I'm no terrorist anymore. By the way, I stopped doing that years ago.
I knew that. Once you came here to the Holy Ground,
you got bored. No, but the logic is, we're trying to. We're punching so far above our weight for size of a country, and our government is trying to show themselves, as far as I can see, as being this power country. Look at us, aren't we fantastic? We're taking in no limit to the amount of people we're taking in. That can, now on one hand, that can look compassionate, but it's the least compassionate thing you can do is to say to someone, we're an island out in the Atlantic Ocean, separated by water from every other country in the world. It's raining nearly 365 days of the year.
You'll get arthritis.
If you haven't got a house and you can't live in a tent because you'll be flooded out of it, but come in and sit here and wait. Yeah. And then if you give, say, the refugees that come in a home, what about the refugees that are 7 years in Knocklashin and places like that?
Oh, it's terrible. No, but they've a roof over their head, Mary. They're all right. They're used to that now. They're settled. They've got a roof over their head.
Nobody gets used to being 7 years not knowing what their status is and not knowing whether they can go out and get a job or whether their children can go to college.
You see, nobody cares, Mary.
They don't care. They don't care.
As long as you've got a roof over your head, whether it's a cattle shed, a temporary accommodation, you're indoors.
And that's it.
And also people living in hotels who have been years, maybe lost a few payments in their mortgage.
They have a roof over their head. They're in a hotel.
And there's fast food outlets you can go to as well for them. And Pat wants to close them down as well. So I mean,
and you'd be lucky if you looked at some people with no roof over their head. So you know.
On that positive note, I knew we'd find a positive note to finish on.
I'm just saying, can I share before we go? Is it possible?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
The dog done got lit, man. He over here rapping with Tyson. Like Tyson trying to give us some shrooms. You don't know how to act. Tyson looking out, man. This shit crazy.
He should have never gave you his money.
Peasants.
This is the incident with Mike Tyson on the plane, is it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Jesus.
Hey, Mike, come on. Let's go stop back. Let's do the horse, man.
Ooh.
That blue net flight. Just got beat up by Mike Tyson.
Well, look, congratulations, by the way, before we finish it, you have Mike Tyson, to our wonderful ambassador, Katie Taylor, who did the business last night. I was up till 4:10. but she did the business. A very close fight for all
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
And
yeah.
can I just
Very,
say
very
that
close.
John Griffin across the road, who's living in South Africa now, John just told me on Facebook that he had the extreme pleasure of being at the match, the fight last
Wow.
night
I believe it
in
was
Madison Square
unreal.
Gardens. So I'm
Yeah.
trying.
Oh,
John will come on on the sports show.
I just
was very
really want
tough.
her to quit while she's ahead. I don't
I
want
do
to see her
too.
lose. Please,
I
please
think-
just leave now.
I think she
Retire.
should give
Quit
up
while
now.
you're ahead. Yeah.
I
And
think
by
she
the way,
will.
But
we are up for a BAFTA next week. I forgot to tell you that. The Missing Children is nominated for Specialist Factual in the BAFTAs.
Oh, wow.
fantastic.
Very good.
You're so well. We're so honoured to have you.
I'm
Well,
so
Alison,
delighted.
that's
Isn't it
fantastic.
brilliant though? It keeps the focus on the story.
But can I just say
And-
before we go about Mike Tyson punching and that guy, there's a limit to what any human being can take. And I saw the full video and he kept haranguing and haranguing. And I don't agree with violence,
Yeah.
but he kept haranguing and haranguing and haranguing him till eventually he stood up. And if Mike Tyson was really punching him, he'd be
Yeah.
dead now.
He kind of ruffled him a bit, didn't he?
I mean,
I
again,
don't fancy it now. I'm not saying it's okay. I don't.
and I said this last week as well. How stupid can you be, though? I mean, really, like, you know, if you want to go for someone, you don't go for Mike Tyson, like, you know.
But Dirk, you see, you were in the row in front of him, and when he saw you, he said, "No, I picked the
you're
other guy."
okay.
Yeah, that's true. That's
But we'll see you again, lads, next week for so
Thanks,
this edition of the
guys.
panel from Alison, Mary, and Dirk. Thanks very much, lads. So long,
See ya.
and good
Bye.
night, and God bless. This is LiR Media. To whom it concerns, welcome to the panel.